we were at we were at the
Mount Defensive Level 1, right?
Yeah, we were at level 1. Ellie and I have had obviously all these advanced classes, but Garrett was bringing his girlfriend Madeline, our friend Jake and Maria. They were coming, so we're like, we'll just take beginner pistol just so everybody's taking it together. And that was when we realized that hers didn't seat. And so we're like, I mean, again, it wasn't falling out. We weren't doing advanced stuff. We weren't running, so it was no big deal. But that TRX gave her the ability, like, well, okay, I can draw from this. And then I was like, well, shoot, I didn't even think about it, but you could go suppressed and have the exact same, setup. So,
well, remind me, I'll show you some of our suppressed setups.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
So we've done a chest rig for a coyote hunter, to where he can either draw or rock it out.
Okay.
But we built it on the purpose that he didn't want to take his rifle with him every time he was checking dogs.
Oh yeah.
So we built it for a suppressed 509.
The setup is absolutely insane.
But we built it in 2 pieces.
The F509 tactical.
Yeah.
Okay, because
we built it in 2 pieces so he can actually unscrew the part that his suppressor rests in, and he can just rock it as a regular chest rig also.
Okay.
Looking goofy. But like I said, we built a pass through for a Beretta 92.
Yeah, because it's funny too, because literally that year I told you at SHOT Show, and when I climb, I always forget I never climb with jewelry, so I took my wedding ring off when we climb, and then I forget that I don't have my wedding ring on. So I was like, ooh, it's gonna be memorialized on video that I wasn't. It's like, well, how old of a video was this that Mike wasn't married? No. Now Mike's hands are swollen from rock climbing. Yeah. But no, so it was literally at that SHOT Show a couple of years ago that I've got an FN 509 tactical, and I'm like, okay, great. And so I'm like, I need a holster for it to be able to shoot suppressed. But even if you don't have the suppressor screwed on, just that extension nub, Safariland does not have a holster for it at all.
Right.
They're like, and everybody's like, hey, when are you guys coming out with one? And they're like, well, like never. And it's like, this is not a unpopular weapon system. Like lots of people carry these. And so then you end up down this rabbit trail of YouTube videos saying, okay, well, here's what you do. Like if you unscrew this whole part, and I'm like, great, this whole holster is going to fall apart. You're going to lose all of its integrity because you're like trying to make this. And I was like, there's got to be a better way on some of those things. And, and then you're just shocked that a company, I mean, I always get it when it's a smaller company where we're like, hey, we don't have unlimited budgets. We just can't do anything we want. But when you get a Safariland, they're like, bro, you guys can do anything you want, and yet you've never created a holster for that.
So we look at it differently. So Safariland, they have the government contracts.
Yeah.
And then they have all the money they need. So if they're making it off of what they're making, they don't have to expand. They don't have to customize. Whereas us, the only way we'll turn you down is if it's physically impossible for it to happen.
Yeah.
And we do that because I call him the mad scientist, but Scott, our owner, he loves the challenge. So we just sent one out. We just have made a partnership with a new content creator. Her name's War Hamster. We sent War Hamster. So she's
solid name.
She's awesome. Yeah, you gotta look her up
it's a she.
on Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, it's even better.
War Hamster. Former combat medic. I think she's in LA now.
No.
Okay.
She was an Air Force medic.
Okay.
Now she's out. She actually just partnered with a veterans thing on TikTok, to where for the next year they're going to be working and making the veteran community a better place and stuff like that. But she's all about hydration. She's always, drink your water and stuff like that. So what we did is we built our holster where it looked like water. So he 3D'd, he hand cut pieces of Kydex and actually made it a 3D look of water on the outside of the holster with her logo printed on the main holster. Yeah. And then we did a tourniquet carrier and 2 mag carriers, one for an AR and then one for a pistol, and sent them to her. But we stuffed them in a water bottle that we sublimate printed our logo on, and then we sealed the bottom of the water bottle. So she had to basically cut the water bottle open to get the hydration. Yeah. So
like a pinata.
Basically,
it's a game.
It was fun though.
You're bash the crap out of this, and then you'll get whatever.
We need to get a couple pictures and post them up when we officially post this podcast. We'll drop a link in there, have a couple of those pictures, especially the Coyote Hunter holster. It's like this crazy crossbody suppressed gun. It's like this big, right?
Yeah.
It's this awesome holster. But
it's like, I'm back to Warhamster. I mean, like, what an awesome name. I always think like Letter Kenny. Have you guys seen Letter Kenny? Squirrely Dan. You're like, okay, I don't want a nickname like Squirrely Dan. I want like Warhamster, like, something,
Yeah.
So her whole panache, basically, for the first 6 months she was doing videos, she didn't reveal her voice. She was always in the squirrel filter, like on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. So that's kind of where it all came from what I understand, from what I can
That's funny.
figure out on my own. But she did a big voice reveal, and now she does Twitch streams and stuff like that, and it's a cool time. She's a very sweet person. She's very down to earth and very,
Well, and that's one of those things when I first talked to you, even at Hannah Haunted Acres, when we first met, and then had you at the facility, like that's why I was like so quick to be like, you know what, this is somebody that we want to have making our holsters, because you're not just like this one-off. It's like, how can I get connected to this cool open concept franchise? You're like, no, this is kind of what we're doing with holsters. We're this open concept, like anything that's possible, let's try and do it just like what we're doing. And you're like, yeah, we can be those guys for you that can grow with you and kind of go custom. And that's why we invited you out. We did our climbing session this morning. That's why Adam's awesome jacked legs that he max deadlift on yesterday are exposed, and for coming out just today. We have a little gift for you and Mike.
Thank you.
Welcome to Tango Mike with Mike Wilson and Garrett. So down the rabbit hole and through the rabbit hole is taken so many ways. I was like, what's something that's like some military lingo that we can throw in? And Tango Mike means thank you or thanks much, right? And then tangent is just because every time we tried to film something here, it like let's make a subject, and all of a sudden we went from like, Trump's new cabinet's looking good to, they're hiding stuff with the UFOs to like, the Giants are real. Right? It just keeps taking.
So what you're saying is he's like Trump and he weaves.
Yeah.
Good weaver.
Weave,
Just ride that tangential curve, and then all of a sudden we just keep taking angles like we were up the walls this morning.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's like, that's what he's saying. It's like, he goes, we'll have to call this Down the Rabbit Hole with Mike, because it's like, you just never. And again, and all of it eventually leads back to, hey, here's the business reason we brought this up, or here's the, here's the specific. But it's interesting when I'm a serial entrepreneur. I mean, when we started, originally as Top Shot, firearm simulator, and then DBA Laser Marksmanship, Laser Precision Marksmanship Club. I mean, we looked and said, there's this need for people to train. I mean, we kind of come from this, I'm former law enforcement for, a period of time. My partner Mike was, FBI Academy, and always been a gun instructor. So we've always been into guns and hunting and shooting and preparedness and taking classes. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like, hey, I'm taking a drone class. Hey, I got my ham license. But everything was, people have to train. In 2020, you can't get ammo. You can't go anywhere. Nobody's training. Firearms ranges they're literally going out of business. Like, we don't have to shut the Second Amendment down. Like, we don't have to close it down. We just have to keep you from being able to buy bullets. Like, if I can just stop that, and here we are in 2024, and we're kind of dealing with some of the same stuff. Like, oh, well, we'll put a ban on primers from Russia or whatever, and you're like, oh, wait, is that where we get all of these things? So you start seeing that departments like law enforcement, if the department doesn't pay for their training, they're not doing it on their own. And so we start thinking like, well, security teams can train. We've worked with, school security teams and church security teams, but in general, people just weren't training. And, we're all in the gun community. We conceal carry. We do these things. And so as we were just talking earlier, everybody's got tons of holsters, because it's like, if I'm wearing jeans and a golf shirt, I've got one holster, and you've learned this. You're like, oh man, like this holster I can wear with a lot of things. You're like, this one, I can't really wear this one with much. Or you wear it, and then you're like, man, this thing's not that comfortable. Or like, it's fine if I'm standing up, but if I go to sit down, you're like, how would I draw from this? And when you're using laser firearms, like you can train with any of these things. you can draw from concealment. You can say, hey, man, my sister she's like, oh, I bought a concealed carry purse. I was like, okay, have you trained with it? Well, I mean, like, what do you mean? Have you ever tried to pull your gun out of it in a position where you're in a threat and then put shots down range? And she's like, no. I said, well, what if somebody grabs you? And she's like, no, I've got a gun in my purse. And so I just jumped and bear hugged her. I'm like, come on, go ahead. Come on, T, grab your gun, get it out, And she's like, okay, I see what your point is.
And we do that,
We can't do that,
We
yeah.
just had an awesome girl in, Lauren, one of our other members brought her in, and now her and her friends have come to train a couple times. She's like addicted to this. She's like awesome. She's kind of in like the general prepper mindset of like, okay, how can I get ready for any situation? I was like, okay, great. And she's, cute little blonde girl you'd never expect to be carrying. She's like wearing a sundress the first day. And I was like, I do my normal check through, like, hey, does anybody have their firearms on them? And she's like, I was like, where is this? And, first thing, she had it on like a leg holster, like under the dress. And I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. And she's like, well, I don't always keep it here though. And so again, she asked me some, questions about what we could do. I showed her the Enigma holster, Fluster, and we didn't have you guys yet, but now next time she came in, I talked to her, but we did some of that training out of the purse. And I was like, well, would you ever not keep it in here? And she's like, no, this is it. And so we fashioned a way in one of the coin purses that she could stick the 43 because again, when she's doing the live judgment training sim, she had the laser round in her gun, practicing, going out, again, just taking that first shot. And she's like, man, every time I put it in the purse, it ends up in a different position.
Yeah.
So is my purse left or right? Okay, I always have it this way.
Was it an actual concealed carry purse or was it
No. It's just her.
Okay.
It's just her Michael Kors with a Glock 43X in it, right? So
yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that they design concealed carry purses so that when you put your firearm in there, like that's where it stays. And my sister's was not. She was like,
correct.
Let me dump this in. Like, oh, I got a hairbrush. Ah, crap, I got like my car keys.
Yep,
like,
and that's what she's doing, right? So it's like, how can I at least set up so when I'm leaving my car, I know this is a step away, having that next jump of like, oh, I wasn't prepared when this happened. I put her through like the restaurant thing where she was like then grabbing her purse from the back of the chair, then here, and I'm like, okay, so how could we cut off that and give you at least a little more time to do that? And so we kind of landed on, okay, I don't want to do anything different than what I'm doing. So what can I add on? And so we just clipped like pepper gel to her purse.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, now I have this to give me a little extra time to get into here, right? So at least I can disengage somebody. If they're shooting at me, I'm done for. And she's like, I'm fine with that. I'm usually out with my husband. He's got a gun on an appendix. So it's like, if it's a two-person shoot back to the car situation, she's like, I'm good. I can blind a couple people while I get ready to get my gun. And again, that pepper spray is right there on the clip, so I can just flip. Even if it's one person holding, I can quickly grab it, flip it, thumb it. And then if you can't breathe or see, it's probably really hard for you to get me or whatever.
And that's perfect because I always say, like, the only purpose of a pistol is to fight your position to your rifle. Mm-hmm. So in that case, it's like, well, the only reason I've got this pepper gel is to fight my way to getting the second to
it's just layers of, how do we get from here to here? Hopefully the pepper spray just ends and the guy's like, this sucks, runs off or just lays there crying while you call the cops. And if it's more than that, then okay, grab the pistol. And if it's more than that, okay, get back to the car where you got your Springfield XDM and a microconverter kit or your truck KSG or whatever, whatever short barrel rifle you got sitting.
I carry a Glock 24L with, it's got 30 rounds of 40 with hollow points.
Which is the 24 though?
24 is, it's standard 40, but it's the 24L, so it's got a 7-inch slide on it, 6-inch slide, one of the two. It's a long slide. It's a little bit longer than the 35 or the 34.
Yeah, because we carried full size 40s in law enforcement in Boone County, and then I had the 23 or the 20. Glock always drives me nuts because I was just never like I've got.
The numbers don't make sense.
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason.
We're gonna build a 22 and call it 44.
Yeah, the compact 40. That's either the 20. I think maybe it's a 23.
So the 23 is the compact 40. The 22 is the long.
And the 27 is the subcompact, which I really thought I would buy one, and then I had a buddy that had one, and it's. I was gonna put it in an ankle holster. It was like Quasimodo dragging my leg. It was a brick. So yeah, that would have been. That'd have been horrible.
But so I got to shoot the competition night for your guys' league night.
Yeah.
One of the first times I came through here.
That's right.
And the fact that I can bring my own pistol and run a laser through it, run a mag through it. As far as training with what I have is so much different than other laser training I've done. I mean, I did FAT system in the military whenever I was a cop.
Yep, early stuff.
And I mean, they hand you a Beretta and it's CO2 powered and
big cord coming up to it.
well, these don't.
Oh, you didn't have the cords yet.
We were refilling cartridges, so
okay.
that wasn't
the early. So you're younger. Yeah. So
but it was
I'm a
still
little older. The old FATS system had big air cables coming up to it.
I've done those with the M16s and the 240s.
Okay.
But so we never had it with our pistols. But yeah, even then it wasn't similar because the recoil was different.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't the same.
They try to get close. It's like
Right.
but it feels like you're at a carnival shooting the water into the balloon.
Or like you're shooting the Tommy guns where you're trying to knock out
your cable's dragging and
Right. But yeah, and then I played with some VRs, and you stick your controller in, and it's not as realistic.
It's better than nothing, but
But this was phenomenal as far as actually getting trained with, and the reset's just a little bit different because of how the mags work. But it's still closer than anything training wise. I've used Manus and stuff like that, and I love my Manus.
Yeah.
My Manus is great for sitting on the couch and just getting used to. So when I shot for the Navy marksmanship team, we shot a lot of high power, and I shot bullseye.
Okay.
So I would just sit there with my Manus, rack my slide on my 45, and shoot my 1911. 500 times a night.
Yeah.
And then,
and that puts you in the rare category of people who do dry fire training. Like every single person, we talk about it all the time. Dry fire training. It's so beneficial. Every sport, every elite athlete that wants to get better at something has to practice dry fire. Mm-hmm. And the reason they don't, it's boring. Like, we, Mike and I both, we've got cert pistols. So, practice your draw, sitting there, I'm going to shoot this, thumbnail or a switch plate cover. I'm gonna shoot the screw in that. Okay, I was close. All right, it was close. And then I've got an extra mag, so I can do mag changes. But it's just boring. You're standing there in your office. So when I was in the academy, they're like, you're doing your firearms training, and they're like, all right, you're using your trigger reset. So take your first shot. Use your trigger reset. Wait for that audible click. Next shot. And so I always. On Glocks, it's a nice audible, crisp sound. So I'm taking a class with a Green Beret and Adam Smith. If you guys know Adam, and he's phenomenal. He's intense, but phenomenal. And so the first thing that Adam does is he gives everybody a nickname. Like, you're the bearded bastard, this old man winter over here. Like, everybody's got some name. Annie Oakley's this, little girl. I'm the only, shockingly, I was the only former law enforcement guy in this class of, 14 people. So my nickname was Popo. So I am on the far side of this range, and we're drawing. We're going to take 3 shots, 4 shots, whatever we're doing. And so on my first shot, click, shot, click, shot, click. He is downrange, 14 people away, in a live fire scenario, and he hears this click, and he stops the whole thing. He's like, cease fire. He knows it's me. Like, he's like, Popo, are you using your trigger reset? I'm like, yeah. Like, is this a trick question? I'm like, yes. Why? Is this also a trick question? Like, to be accurate? Why? I'm not sure what we're looking for here, but I'm like, why would you want to be accurate? Like, why wouldn't I? He goes, are you trying to put the bullet hole in the same bullet hole every time? And I was like, yeah, I am. He's like, why? And I'm coming to the realization that maybe this is a bad thing. Like, or is he just, because there's no reason he's like, I'm stopping this whole thing. Like, there's obviously a teaching point here. And he's like, why are you trying to get the bullet to go in the same hole? And I'm like, so I can be accurate. He's like, is this a bullseye shoot? Is there more points if you get the hole? And he's like, and then he just sees like, all right, everybody gather around. He's like, what is the purpose? Like, when you shoot somebody, he goes, because we're not training for shooting paper targets. He starts that, and actually that's how he started. He's like, why is everybody here? Like what are you trying to get out of this class? And it was I think it was called Sam. It was like.
I thought that was Savage. Is it the Savage pistol rifle?
It's not part of that one, but it could be part of that. But it was like, accuracy against multiple moving targets, and it was like 1,000 rounds of pistol, 1,000 rounds of rifle. So it's
it's a good training session.
It's 2 days. Most people don't have 2,000 rounds of ammo,
Okay.
let alone that they're going to use in a 2-day training class. And so he's like, so why is everybody here? And people are like, well, I want to get better at shooting. He's like, bull. He doesn't say bull. He finishes it. And somebody else like, well, I want to become a more proficient shooter. He's like, nope, screw you. That's a lie. Like I like to be more proficient with my weapon system. Nope, you're a big liar too. He's like, you guys are all here because you want to more effectively learn to kill people and stop the fight so that you can protect your friends, your family, and community.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like this long pause where people are like, I guess technically that is why everybody trains. Nobody's training hoping I have to deploy my weapon and end somebody. But it's like, I'm here to protect my wife. I'm here to protect my kids. I'm here to protect my family. Like, that's why you carry. Like, you might be the only person, the kid at the Greenwood Park Mall, Eli Dickens. Like, here's a guy that says, oh, I know the mall said I'm not supposed to have a firearm on their property, but he's the guy that ends an active shooter, is a hero. And, so he's like, this is why you guys are here. So, down the rabbit hole, back to my thing. So, why are you using a trigger reset? And I'm like, because I'm trying to be accurate and put all of my shots on target. And he said, when does the guy stop shooting back at you? And I'm like, well, when he's dead. What causes them to die? When all of their blood is gone, they stop firing back. Mm-hmm. So he's like, do you want 3 bullet holes right here, or do you want one here, one here, one here? He goes, I want this guy bleeding from as many places as possible. And I was like, I never thought about that. Like, again, bullseye shooter.
Yep.
You're like, this is my default go-to. So then we come in here and we're training, and even if we're going through like practical shooting courses, you got your cardboard targets. I'm like, what? That's 20 inches of cardboard. It's about the size of me.
Right.
So when we're like 2 shots on target, I'm like, screw your A-ring. Screw this like bullseye. I'm trying to be really accurate. I'm like, how quick can I engage these 5 targets? Mm-hmm. Way better training, but now it's when you can use your weapon system on it as well. You're like, okay, now.
So I started off. I was about 2 years old, 2.5 years old when I got my first rifle.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got.
Your parents must have loved you.
My grandpa was the one who bought it for me.
Yeah. My parents didn't love me that much. I couldn't even get a moped.
It was
I wanted a moped so bad.
Used squirrel gun, 22.
Yeah.
My rule was, you had to learn with irons, and then you get a scope.
Yeah, we shot each other with BB guns, so they were never giving us 22s.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then, my progression, just anything I could get my hands on. I'd shoot 300 Win short mags. I would shoot, obviously when I got older.
A little older, yeah.
But, as my progression got older, I always, if I could get my hands on it to shoot it, I would.
Yeah.
So I started my competition career in bullseye. But then I quickly jumped into USPSA, and with the law enforcement background, USPSA helps with that target recognition so much.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And, I've even heard of, these special forces guys, Green Berets and Navy SEALs and stuff, going to competition shooters to help with target acquisition and, speeding up how they are able to do what they need to do. USPSA has been phenomenal as far as a motivator, but I always, we talked about dry fire, but reloads are always my kryptonite.
Really?
Well, I just don't ever think to practice them until the night before competition.
Oh.
And it's like, I haven't done this in 6 months, so I'll sit there for an hour and a half next to my bed, and I'll move and I'll mag reload, and of course the wife comes in and she goes, "What are you doing?"
What are you doing? Because they're not all tactical. They're like, I'm dropping mags. Yeah.
Right. So our downstairs neighbors, they love us, and that is how it is. But there's always going to be something of your training that you kind of neglect, even without thinking about it. And then at the last minute, you're like, oh.
Oh yeah. Well, like we were just, my wife and I were at a night fighting course. So you're either using flashlights or night vision. Mm-hmm. And not everybody, we have night vision. Not everybody has night vision. So people are like, hey, grab our night vision. You're welcome to train with it. So people are trying ours. I've got, infrared. So I got the all the fun toys. Malls. On the front of the SBR, suppressed. Night vision goggles. So they're like, this is unbelievable. But when do you get to practice that? Like most people. So now we're talking about reloads.
Mm-hmm.
You're reloading in the dark. I mean, it's pitch black,
right?
And you're like, okay, if I'm, again with night vision goggles, like where am I set to? I'm tuned to the target down range. I'm not tuned in really close, so you're not like looking down, like get this thing up in your weapon system, in your workspace. But when everybody else is having to just do it in the dark, they're like, okay, where's my mag? Like, and you can tell. They've not done it enough. They don't have that muscle memory of where that thing's at. Even when I set up my battle belt, and I'm moving stuff around, I'm like, oh, I want to add this dump pouch. And then I was like, okay, is this dump pouch going to be in the way of my muscle memory of where I'm used to grabbing mags?
Yeah.
And
so I was having a conversation with a group the other day, and we were talking about, whether T-box was most effective or if CHEPS was most effective as far as, if you're clearing the room or whatever. And, there's the mentality of, to the chest, one to the head. And we were kind of explaining at the end of it where training is what you fall back on because you build that muscle memory. And whenever you actually get into a scenario where you get that adrenaline dump and you're kind of in that fog, that's what you're going to fall back on. And I mean, at that point, it doesn't matter. Chest, head, wherever if you want to walk it up the body. The job is to get the job done.
Yeah.
And as long as you recognize your targets correctly, and getting your job done, does it really matter if it was chest or head, or as long as you don't get shot in the back, it's a happy day.
Yeah.
That's one of the same philosophies that we lay on with a ton of gun training. And one of the things I tell people is like, you ever have a gun instructor telling you like, this is the only way, you got to change what you're doing? I'm like, boy, that's not it. And you probably shouldn't listen to them because they're just teaching off of preference that they've had for 10 years. And ask them if they say something like that. Ask them when their last gun class was that they took.
Yeah.
Well, I don't need one. I was in the LA riots, and I was just like, what? that was our church security guy. I'm not going to name the church right now. Our church security guy who I tried to get to come down here. I'm like, yeah, try the judgment training. He's like, yeah, I think I'm pretty well trained. I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't trying to put you in a corner or anything. I was like, what's your training experience? He's like, you ever heard of the LA riots? I was like, yeah, in like the 90s. And he's just like, yeah, I was in those. And I was like, okay,
like 90s,
what side?
2000.
First off, what side? And I was like, no, he was SWAT back then. He's like, and I've trained everyone else. I was like, okay, so like you're going to the live range and giving your security guys like a couple rounds a month to do this. And I was like, what have you done as far as like judgment training? Like, can they hit a piece of paper? Great, it's easy to know. Hey, this steel that everyone's been shooting at, that's the one. Versus when we have our judgment training in here and it's like a church and like people are running and you're trying to figure out, okay, where's the guy, right? It's kind of like a Bible study had taken place. There's a couple security officers at our church. We have like 20 guys with little orange bands that they all carry, right? They work as a team. Okay, they have communications. And until you know that, you guys are gun guys. You can probably kind of tell, it's like, oh, that guy's for sure carrying. Why is he standing like that? And eventually,
all the guys with the orange tags.
Well, again, I didn't even notice the orange tags because they're very subtle. And then I was like, I told Madeline, and we knew it was a gun-friendly church. I was like, I think that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy. And then when they said, oh yeah, all the guys with the orange tags, and I was like, oh yeah, that guy, that guy, that
See,
guy, that guy.
I don't think they should wear anything differentiating them because once somebody knows that, and then all you're doing is telling me every guy with an orange guy is if I'm the combatant, I'm like, and I've now realized because I've checked out your soft target. Every guy with an orange tag is one of the threats. I'm like, all right, let's take out all those guys first.
Well, the thing is, there's so many of them, and they don't all work on the same day. So, like, and again, they're subtle enough that, like, I did not notice that.
Multiple moving targets with strategy and accuracy.
And again, it's like that guy, again, nobody like that is the guys that are coming to our church. Like, they're guys that hate what our pastor is saying on Facebook, and even one of our pastors is now Lieutenant Governor, Micah.
Oh, yeah, you said that.
Yeah, Life Church Noblesville, so whoops. But anyway, they have these orange tags, and it helps them to identify because in one of the simulations, you're working on a security team, and like you don't know who's on your security team. So like, because one guy's crawling up to the pasture, the guy stands up in the crowd with the rifle, and you're like, oh, that's the guy, and people just go, boom, yeah, I took the shot, and I'm like, okay.
You just took out your security officer that was going to protect your pastor.
Right, and then again, if you wait a little longer, then the guy pulls the rifle, but again, it's not like a very clear shot. Like ideally, we want him to kind of drop down, shoot up, because he's in the middle of the congregation.
Yeah.
So again,
that's a great scenario.
Can you move forward?
That's a great scenario because it's you can de-escalate this thing right out of the gate.
Yep.
And it's a guy stands up, and the
pastor starts like, hey, everybody get your Bibles, turn to John, whatever. And this guy jumps up out of the pew or out of the aisle, and he's like, it's King James or nothing. I'm sick of this. So at this point, this guy is just yelling at the pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and the scenario starts, you're the armed security guy in the back of the church. And I have seen church security guys draw down, sir, I need you to sit down. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to your church. Holy cow, you just drew your weapon on a dude for yelling at the pastor? Like,
he doesn't like King James.
I agree. Like, this King James is crap.
But again, that's the thing that they're going to miss when they're just doing that target training, and the guy that was in the LA riots is taking him out to the dirt range. That we've been to a couple shoot nights. I'm like, yeah, you guys are fine, but again, like, you're not doing that judgment training, and once you get somebody in. Again, they say like, it seems kind of hokey. They do the first judgment training. Sometimes you don't get it. You're a little quick to draw like those guys. And after the second or third one, you start to be able to suspend your disbelief a little better. And you go like, okay, what would I actually do here?
Yeah.
And again, talk it out. If you can't do something that the screen is showing, be like yesterday, I had Nellinger running one, and there was this office guy that had killed people. He's like sitting there on the desk. The gun's like a little further on the table, and you're already drawn on him. And he's like, well, I would walk up and go kind of slide the gun away. And it's like, okay, I did that. This one has like 15 branching options. So I did that. And basically from there, like, he surrenders. Mm-hmm. Or there's a branch where he's just like, just kill me. And it's like, okay, like you already got the gun. Like, it's fine. But again.
And if the gun's not in play, because it's, it's over here, I'm like, okay, so are you going less lethal now? Mm-hmm. Are you drawing taser instead? Yep. Because you can do that.
Yeah, and again, who are you in this situation?
Yeah. So are you a concealed carry person or you police? Yeah.
I can activate taser, pepper spray, but I made it was Nick's finance office. I was like, okay, that one dude that you have to be quiet around in the office, that's the guy.
Okay.
He went crazy today, and you're in your office and you have a gun, you hear the shots, this is what it is.
Gotcha.
And the first time he does it, and then like Nick's he doesn't do a good job at de-escalating. The guy eventually grabs the gun and then sets it down again, and then eventually he takes the shot. Nick does that, and he's like, well, in reality, he's like, if I started peeking around that corner and I saw the bodies on that table, he's like, I'm probably going to turn around and call the cops. And I was like, okay, do that next time.
Yeah.
Leave the room, go ahead and call the cops, get yourself in a safe place, get the people out quietly. If that's what you would do it. All right, let's practice that situation.
We had a lady, I think she was on one of the, I don't know if she was on a security team or not. And so, again, something's going, she's like, and she says, Siri, dial 911. It's dialing 911. We're like, no, cancel call. She literally had her phone was in her pocket, and it started dialing 911. We're like, uh-oh, freeze scenario, But that's the thing. When you get into these scenarios, you get to find out. Because I was like, would you really have drawn your gun on this guy for yelling? He goes, well, no, I would have probably, walked up to him. Because he's like, well, what did you do? I said, I'd absolutely walk up. Hey, sir, hey, come on. Let me get you a cup of coffee. Let's go out to the coffee shop. Let's talk about King James, NIV, ESV. I've got some views. Let's see if they match up. I just learned about this Sinai Bible. Apparently there's 14,000 discrepancies. Never heard of that. Learned that on TikTok, down the rabbit hole with Mike.
Sure.
So,
is that the Ethiopian Bible?
I think
it's like this thing.
Ethiopia. I think it's part of that. I'm like, hey, I agree. King James, it was like 1600. Apparently King James has a demonic Bible. There's all kinds of things. I could go down the rabbit hole. So let's talk about this out here, and then, because if you walked up to this guy, you would see that there was a rifle laying on the ground. He would never get a chance to get down there. And so, because at that point, it doesn't matter which one of us three, all three of us would go hands-on. Mm-hmm. But now I get a 70-year-old security guy, and he's like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't be able to go hands-on. Okay, well, then what would you do? And we had a guy, because we make everybody, just, again, this goes back to holster selection. I want them in our simulator room with their holster. Like, this is the holster you carry. Let us outfit your weapon with our tech so that you can use it on our screens. Or, you're just shooting a Glock 19. Great, here, we grab one of ours. It's already set up. You want a red dot? No red dot? What do you want? You want Trigicon sights? Like, what? Great.
And especially during judgment. Once we warm you up practicing from that position you think you would conceal from. And usually by the end of the session, people who haven't actually done like ISP, like actual, conceal carry, like at a competition or anything, they go like, oh, wait, this is really not a good place.
Yeah, and so this guy was his primary
Oh no.
was an ankle holster.
Oh,
And-
You say, oh no.
Oh no. So I picked the longest scenario. Like I picked this crazy long scenario that because I was like, when this guy starts yelling, I said, if you were concerned and you were like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and take my gun, put it behind my back or whatever, like just in case I'm already like, geared up, or if I'm under here, maybe I'm crossing my arms and I've released tension, like I'm ready to go if something pops off. This guy goes down on one knee because he's like messing with his gun and he got out of the holster, and then the scenario keeps going. He's down there for a minute.
Oh.
and he's like about 70. And then finally the scenario goes off and he gets this gun out and takes a shot. And I was like, so let's talk about after action report. Tell me about it. He goes, I don't think this is the best place to keep your gun. And we're like, we knew that the minute you walked in, and now you do also. Because here's a guy that never trained.
Mm-hmm.
He never trained with this holster. I was like, you guys are all at church. They came in wearing sports coats. I was like, under your holster. I mean, like, there's so many things you could be doing.
So that's what's nice about. That's one of the things that we've really worked on with our in the waistband.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have a fully tuckable in the waistband.
Okay.
So we've done private security events with it where they want under you see.
Tuckable, like something's sticking out, so you're pulling that
Nope.
up.
No, so we the way we run it is we leave we have our ulti clip and we run a small gap between it. So you actually tuck your shirt between your ulti clip and your razor.
Okay.
So it's a fully tuckable.
Okay.
So we had a guy, he went to church and his parents always kind of give him, they razz him for carrying at church. And he went up to his parents one day and he goes, what do you think? And they go, oh, you look really good, son. And he goes, that's it? And they go, yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect, thanks. And so it's nice that you can, because the shoulder rig, it's, if you lean over or something, people still see it.
You're
but
printing,
if we're rocking a fully tuckable, in the waistband, especially if you're carrying something smaller frame like a Glock 43X or something like that, that's what we want.
Yeah.
And then, all you have to do is lift your shirt up like normal. You got to pull a little harder because you're untucking, but at the same time.
But that's the thing where people buy these holsters and they put a loaded firearm and they carry hot. Like I am ready for Kandahar. Let's go. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, like you've never tried to pull, and everybody's seen all the videos. Guy jerks the gun out, shoots himself in the leg, jerks the thing. I mean, like, I'm like, man, I'm not carrying appendix and never practicing with this thing.
Yeah.
And people do it every single day. And I was like, guys, just come in here. Because yes, you can dry fire practice, but when you've got there's no stress when you're just sitting there in your office and you're sitting there like, oh, I'm doing some mag changes. Like when, Adam Smith is sitting there yelling at you, get that mag change, come on. And you're like, God, like you're just, that intensity, other people firing around you. And so when there's a scenario going on and a guy jumps up and draws a gun and you now like, and I've done, winter training classes. I've done guerrilla marksman where it's, in February, and it's 19 degrees and you're like, oh man, like these gloves suck. I'm like, they're too thick. I've got gloves from, being in law enforcement that are thick leather ones that are great for searching a car so you don't get a needle prick or something. But then you're like, these aren't that warm, and when you're outside all day, like, well, as in law enforcement, like, I'm sitting in my toasty roasty car, like, oh, get my gloves on and go out and do something for a little bit. But when you're at an outdoor class for 4 hours and you're like, I can't feel my fingers anymore, but you find out, you're like, I can't index a mag, I can't drop all these things. And so when you start doing that and you're like, okay, I've cleared your jacket and you end up grabbing shirt and you're pulling it, like, well, that's the grip you got. You still got to get your shot on target. This is the place to practice that. This is the place to find out if your gear works well.
Right, and that's the perfect kind of combination of why 3i is such a good partner for us, because again, we want to introduce everybody to doing that judgment training. Like, yeah, you can do some target shooting. Yeah, we have some multi-gun guys and pistol comp guys that want to come in and practice. it's going to get you somewhere. But really what we want to do is like reach out to that community who needs to learn how to do judgment training with their firearms.
Yeah.
They need to learn how that situation goes so they can know for sure if that holster is a good spot. And if not, how can we have 3i make you guys something custom or show you, hey, here's their basic versions. And if you want, with our security teams that we train, here's the fully tuckable.
Yeah.
Right? So they don't know where it's coming from. And maybe you can de-escalate that church situation by just quickly walking up to that guy and being like, hey man, can we go outside and talk? And just learning the basics. Like again, even 3 judgment training scenarios is going to make you more well-trained than probably 95% of people that are carrying guns.
Yeah.
Right? There's that 5% that have military experience, combat experience. They're situationally aware. Like when we were breaking down stuff with Taz yesterday, who's been overseas and done stuff, like he's noticing stuff that, this is what I saw this and this and this. And he had this, I called it the quantum theory of Taz. And I was like, so Nick over here, who's in the finance office, is just like mind blown. I'm like, okay, so what did you get from that? He's like, yeah, I'm not going in there. I'm like, bingo. I'm like, that's what it is. And so that's kind of to segue what we're doing as a 3i LPMC, congruent. No, that was a stupid thing to say. I don't know. As a 3i
Take that down around the hole.
Yeah.
The quantum
congruency. No.
Tangentially,
What I was trying to get at is what I love about what we're doing and what they're doing is we're doing the judgment training, and people need to realize that that's the training that they're missing. And again, even if you're a beginner, learn the basic gun fundamentals from us, then see that situation. And within 3 sessions, you're going to go, oh man, this gun's a tool that I need to have. And this is why, right? It's not just like you're that guy waiting for the day. And then again, where 3i comes in is like, okay, now based on what holsters we've seen, it doesn't matter what gun you have. You don't have to spend the time going around trying to figure out online, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? Have the order form and, come out to us December 30th and then, or November 30th and December 1st. We're having our ATF night. So we're doing alcohol, tobacco, firearms, just kind of doing an open house to kind of connect with the community, show them some judgment training, do some practice, have some fun, show what you guys are doing with your holsters.
Building holsters.
We're going to
Build them here.
We'll
I got
build
2
a
guys
holster
coming
for
out to
you
build.
right here. So we got some guys. I know we're going to put in a small order for our guys for what we do as far as instructors. And you guys have already sent us a couple options, so thank you so much. That's why we gave you our little gift. And LPMC.
But this is a great thing where the more classes you take, the more things. I mean, this is when you see obviously we talk the number of holsters that are available. I've been in so many classes and I've seen so many people. I mean, somebody's got a battle belt. Somebody else is like, no, I don't have a battle belt, so I'm just gonna go appendix carry. And and my shirt's untucked and I got my winter coat over it. So they're like, you can tell the minute we step up to the firing line, they have never drawn this holster. And they're like, and it's winter. And they're like, I've never had to try to clear this with gloves. And there's a guy that I've taken a bunch of classes with. He's a great guy, but he's a big guy. And he's like, yeah, I'm working on it. I'm like, dude, you're out here. Like you're putting in the effort. Right. But he carries at 5 o'clock. I mean, and again, he's a big guy and he's trying to carry inside the waistband at 5 o'clock. And then when you're done with that course of fire and he's trying to reholster, I'm just watching him. I mean, he's all over the place missing. And I was like, bro, like, why are you carrying, like, is it strong 3 o'clock maybe better? But this is where, like, when they come in, like, hey, great, give me a 3i appendix, give me a 3i strong side, give me a 3i. Like, they can try all of these variations, but not just like what feels good. Can you draw from it when I put you under pressure? Right. Because that's really the thing. I mean, we can shoot zombies and you can shoot for days. We have recoil weapons that you can get the actual recoil with CO2 cartridges and you can have all that fun. But when you're doing judgment training, I'm like, we're not sending a dozen shots down range. Right. I guess I did. So the first time this was part of the thing when I was in law enforcement, we used a simulator one time in 5 years. Mm-hmm. Like that was it. And it's like, they rented it. They had this thing set up at the department for 24 hours a day for a week. And I'm like, I always worked weekend nights. And so like, all right, Wilson, get in here. It's 2 a.m. And I shot for a couple hours. And it's already intimidating because you got the brass that are already like, oh, what an idiot. But you had to be like, walking up on a traffic stop. They're like, hey, just do what you would normally do. I'm like, hey, Officer Wilson, 565, reason for your stop here, pulled you over for your speed, whatever. You got your license, registration. So we had to go through all of the things that we would normally say. And so they had me in a room. They're like, hey, you've been called to a break-in. Lady says somebody has broken into her house. And so there's 2 cops in the scenario. There's the cop that's on the screen and I'm his backup. So it's room clearing. We didn't do CQB in the academy, so I'm hunting rabbits. And all of a sudden this door flings open, this dude jumps out with a shotgun, blasts my partner, and I'm like, there
you go.
And they go back, and you can see the captain, his eyes are like, okay, let's go back through the scenario. They're like, you shot him 17 times. And he's like, any reason you continued shooting him? I'm like, well, he kept moving. He's like, well, that's actually called falling.
Just shoot till the threat is out there.
The falling, moving, semantics. All my shots were like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down. I just kept shooting them all the way to the ground. But I was like, man, I've never been in that scenario. I've never been in a scenario where something happened. I was like, what would you do? Well, I got to find out. And I'm not going to be doing traffic stops as a civilian, but it still came down to situational awareness and perception. They had a scenario and you pull over this blonde and she's wearing a bikini and you're just like, I'm Officer Wilson of some department and she starts just blabbering and da-da-da-da, and they just freeze the scenario. They said, did you notice the gun? I'm like, I didn't even know she had a head.
And there's 99% of people will get the exact cup size.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
was like, what cup size? You're like, D.
Yeah.
Did you notice anything else?
Did you know she had a massive revolver in her purse sitting right there? And you go back and you're like, it's in plain view. And you're like, I did not notice that, So. But those are the things where when you get those scenarios, I wanted, my wife and my kids and my friends to be able to train the way I was training in law enforcement. They don't get to, we would drive our police cars out to an outdoor range at midnight, turn on all the lights, the sirens, get it all disoriented, and start shooting at night. And you're like, you find out that you actually shot better without your flashlight, just getting your night vision going. And, but the average person's never going to be able to do that. They don't draw from their holster in any practice. You go into any live fire gun range and it's like, walk up, put your gun on the table, make sure it's oriented the right way, don't have anything. You're like, this is not the reality that we live in. That person leaves that live fire gun range where they're supposed to be getting good practice and drawing from concealment and all these things, and they never get to do that. And then they put their weapon back in the box and they walk off no better for the training because they think I'm trying to be a bullseye shooter here. Right. And you're like, nothing's moving. It's all static. You're like, great. Where's this reality? We put you on one scenario. Everything's moving. Targets are coming back and forth. Good guy targets are running back. You're like, don't shoot the ones with the X. You're like, and the first time people do this, they're like, holy cow. But I want them wearing a holster the whole time. Yeah. Because I want them getting into the habit of, okay, reholster. All right, draw. Okay, get ready. When you hear the beep, I want you to draw and get on target. And they're like, they feel like a badass. They're like, I like this. I got a holster.
They get good quick. And a lot of these people that are doing that exact program that you were talking about, there's guys running everywhere. They're people that have come in and they locked up their guns when they came in because they conceal and they carry hot. Yep. But they've never pulled it out in that situation. Like, well, this is a mess. I probably wouldn't in this situation. I was like, okay, then why are you carrying? They're waiting for the one single school shooter that just stands in the middle of a food cart and starts shouting at everyone. It's like, dude, that is the least likely scenario where you're using it.
The scenario you ran me through the first time I was here.
Yeah.
You're like, you're going into a grocery store. Okay. So I walk in, there's 4 people, 2 people in line, 2 people over at the pop stand. And there's a lady behind the counter. The guy walks in and shoots her, behind the counter and falls down with her. So I drew and I took 3 steps off to the side and I just kind of
got off the X.
I just waited for him. And he goes, he's like, would you have been silent, during that and everything? I said, I'm not in law enforcement capacity. I don't want him knowing where I'm at. So yes,
Yeah.
I'm going to stay silent.
Yeah.
And guy pops his head. First one catches him under the left eyeball, and then the next one catches him in the shoulder. And he goes, "Okay."
Yeah, he was on point. You never knew he's got that target shooting. I mean, the second that guy came out, he just turned into pink mist on the Slurpee machine. So.
Well, and that's the thing though, is when people, and that's the perfect thing. Like, I'm not law enforcement. I'm a private citizen, concealed carrying. But I've got a gun, and so in that scenario, you're like, people are like, well, I don't know, what would I do? Like, well, I know for sure I'd be drawing my gun, because if nothing else, I'm protecting me at that point, because I'm in here. And there was one of my wife Ellie, her good friends that used to work for her husband's a cop, and so we came in here and had a little double date, and so we're doing all these scenarios, and so we mix them up. We give them a law enforcement one, we give people the civilian ones, and because even civilians learn from law enforcement things, like, wow, like, what, I don't know what I would do there. But this, it's a lover's quarrel. You come in the parking lot, there's a guy in a car, girls yelling at him, and he's like, what's my role in this scenario? We're like, you're a civilian, concealed carry, you're walking through the parking lot, and you see this. And the scenario starts, he walks right out the door and leaves the sim room.
Again, great things that
He's
you
like,
can do.
he goes, I wouldn't even stay.
Right.
I'll call, hey, 911, hey, there's some people having a big argument. I mean, no guns have been drawn. It's just two people fighting at this point. He's like, I'm not even getting involved, because now I stay and she draws a gun. And now what do you do? Well, I've got to draw a gun, or I got to get out of Dodge. And I said, okay, so, and I've seen so many of these scenarios, the guy doesn't give any commands. The girl draws the gun. He just shoots the girl. And then the boyfriend turns around, what are you doing? Call 911. And I said, hey, what was the name of the girl you just shot? What's the name of the guy? Do you even know these people? Well, no. And I'm like, well, you're going to get ready to know them, because you're going to be on the news. Do you have concealed carry? Do you have USCCA? Do you have legal shield? Like, do you have insurance?
And some of that stuff they go through even just the first time, it's like, okay, when we get to situation in progress, what would you do? Just getting people to think a little bit different is why we're doing that, and why we want to share it to the public, and why we want to show them your holsters. So we're doing this big event. And also, another thing besides knives that you can have, Crate sent us these. They're going to go on our prize table. So if you guys want to unbox them,
oh heck yeah!
What did I give you?
You gave me something badass.
Yeah, you see what that is?
Oh,
you see this? I don't know what it's going to look like. We haven't done anything with them yet, so let's just see what they've donated. It looks like
mine on the side of the box says Trump 47.
Oh yeah. So I've got a nice American flag here.
Yeah, I got Ranger OTF. Again, we're going to put these on the prize table, so if you want to come in with a switchblade, do some judgment training. We'll have some tasers and other stuff. So this one,
I've got
black.
I've got a 45, and I've got a 47, and on the back, make liberals cry again. That one might not make the prize table. That might.
Well, there we go.
Like, look, it's perfect. Yeah.
I'll leave the American flag sitting there.
There's a little ceramic glass breaker. Mm-hmm. It's pretty neato. And then again, we're gonna have cigars for cigars for purchase.
I'm gonna appreciate Mike Pearson. Mike Pearson's the one that sent this out from Crate.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah.
Mike Pearson,
Mike Pearson.
Yeah,
nice.
So we'll send this clip to Mike Pearson.
Yeah, I was going to say, anything with, if my wife sees something that says make liberals cry, she's going to be like, oh, babe, buy me one of those.
So, yeah,
you can have it, you just have to beat everyone else in the competition.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll make the ranking. Yeah, I'm currently working on, the prize bracket, what you're going to get. Taser sent us a couple, thank you gifts too. We'll have some cigars for purchase. We'll have some bourbon here as well. We'll have a bunch of other great companies coming out. Check us out. We're going to do judgment training, competition shooting, cigars, bourbon.
So I don't know
switchblades.
Bourbon-wise, Hooten Young, they are saying they will help us out.
Heck yeah! So there you go.
5 bottles, cakes, whatever they're.
There you go. So we'll put one of those in probably for the prize table too. So first place is going to get kind of crazy, and then we'll pass around a couple of those. And it sounds like this is going to be a pretty awesome event.
Oh yeah!
These guys are going to be making holsters in the moment.
Taco trucks coming out. They'll be selling tacos all day.
Taco truck,
tacos, alcohol. Cigars. So this
switchblades. I'm already going to build a siesta into my day at that point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we got a big couch over there. I was thinking about setting up some cots.
So this is interesting. So let's talk about ATF. Let's talk about alcohol. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about shooting. Mm-hmm. So when we started this, I mean, we've had bachelor parties, birthday parties, different things, date nights.
Right.
Husband and wife are like, hey, we're gonna go out to dinner, or hey, can we bring in a bottle of wine? And we've had people bring in coolers. And it's like, hey, we're having a team building thing, and we want to have some pizza and some beer. And so you'll have some people in the firearms community that will lose their ever-loving minds because they're like, alcohol and firearms don't mix. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So when I went to dinner last night and I had a drink, or I'm sitting on the couch and I have a couple drinks and then I go to bed and somebody breaks in, do I have alcohol in my system? Yeah. Do you know how you would shoot? Or like, I've had people, like, we used to play pool all the time. I am the pool player that gets worse with each beer. My friends are like, oh, dude, 3 beers in, I'm getting like,
Oh yeah.
I
I'm
am
gonna
not.
be 6 shots of tequila in, and I'm hitting every angle. That's
yeah.
all my practice.
6 shots of tequila, I'm like, all right, where'd the ball go? I can't see anything. I'm going cross-eyed. So I like the idea in a safe environment of people saying, hey, I had a couple drinks. Like, the purpose isn't, hey, let's get drunk and then see how I do. In law enforcement, when we do our sobriety night, it's always people from the county, the commissioner's board. We get them drunk, basically. They all have different drinks, and then we have to do field sobriety, test them, see if we can guess about where they're at.
Right.
And some of them, they all get rides home, but some of them, they're like, no, this one's 0.2. Like, some of them get a little tanked. But we learn how to deal with that. Well, if you've had a couple drinks, I'm not saying, hey, let's go to the range, drink beer, and do live fire. But I wonder how I would perform if I had a beer or two. Is it better? Is it worse? When you pull your gun out of your nightstand, do you have a flashlight on it? A lot of people don't. Do you have night sights on it? A lot of people don't. And if it was been in your nightstand the whole time, these things aren't charged up.
Right.
So now, in pitch black, you draw your weapon. So we go into our rooms and we turn the lights off. The only thing you see is the light from the projector. People are like, get on that front sight. They're like, I can't even see the front sight. I'm like, absolutely. Welcome to reality. Because this is what you think you're going to do. I'm going to draw my gun out of my nightstand. I'm going to go to war. It's like, are you?
That's why I got a shotgun next to the bed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and that's and that's too just like where the reps come in. So it's like even me, like the other day, I pulled out my SIG and adjusted it, my 320 for the simulator, and I hadn't realized it was in my nightstand that night. I usually don't keep it all the way in the nightstand. Usually it's in place, catches sun.
Yeah.
It's in, like, at night I can open my eye, it's just glowing right there.
Yeah.
And then this was the first day I had registered what you talked about, and I was just like, oh crap, because we had the lights off in there. And I'm like, oh, there's nothing to see.
Nothing.
I can't see the phosphorus. There wasn't anything. So I was like, okay, that's where muscle memory came in. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to look at what I'm shooting and the point shooting.
Yeah.
The muscle memory of I've used this gun so many times in the
dark. And
I'll reposition on the sights, and I'm just like, okay, but even when I just went from the drop, bam, like right square in the dead of the chest. And I was like, okay, cool. So like I know this is working because I don't have nearly that much live fire practice, right? So
and a lot of people have this whole thing with lights, and like, so all of our holsters, like, well, does that holster hold a light? Would you have a stream light, a Surefire? Like, these are not universal. Like, people are saying, I'm creating this and saying, hey, at a price point where you're like, hey, have a configuration for how you're going to carry. So I've got lights on both of the pistols for my wife and I that we carry, but it's like, this isn't like, hey, turn this thing on. So I think I've got Surefire on these now, but in law enforcement I had a Streamlight, and the Streamlight is so loose.
I love my TLR1.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like so light, and then I'm like, with this shirt, I was like, click, and I was like, man. But again, I'm thinking it's a light. I read all the reviews like, this is the best light, and I was like, I don't know, man. Like, because having that night fighting class, you're like, I'm turning this thing on, and they're like, you just want to turn it on for a second, acquire your target, turn it off. You're like, we were doing CQB, and they're like, light on, light off. And I'm like, this is not an easy thing to turn on and off. And then I was like, where did my Streamlight go? That thing was so nice, so loose, and
So to touch back onto the alcohol thing with these events, So me and Garrett have talked about it, and this is essentially a soft launch for us. We wanted to figure out all of our hiccups that we might potentially hit while not having live ammunition.
Yeah.
We are planning on, the goal is to have one of these once a quarter and visit different gun ranges and be able to do this. So we are going to take safety serious whenever we get that. I think the general consensus that we've came to is we're going to rock 2 wristbands, probably a red and a green one. You'll get both when you get there, and as soon as you have alcohol, we'll cut off the green one. Green one's gone, because you can't shoot any longer. So I think that'll be the...
Yeah, because they can still say, hey, I'm going to have a beer while I'm watching everybody else shoot. I like it.
But then I also like the fact that everyone's got a wristband on at all times.
Yeah.
Because A, that lets me know you signed the waivers, so you can be there.
Yeah.
But then I also know that you have the conscious mind that, hey, this is where I'm at. This is
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Well, and even when we do, I mean, Garrett and I did a mercenary challenge. And I mean, just going head to head. I mean, we are running with firearms, crisscross. I've got the drone out, just dive bombing him as he's running through this course of fire. Super cool. But people are like, oh, I haven't run with my gun before. And I was like, oh, I didn't bring my strap to strap this thing to my leg. I get done. My wife's like, what's the matter? I'm like, oh, just this huge bruise from running all day with this gun slapping me.
Leg paddle holster on the side.
But like I said, that's people who don't train with their gear. Like I look at everything as an opportunity to test your gear, but in a lot of these courses, you've got a range safety officer with their hand on your shoulder. Okay, now we're backing up because they're like, they know there's no alcohol involved, but they're like, this is so dangerous. This person's grabbing a victim to drag them while they've got a shotgun. I mean, like, things can go wrong. So they're like, I'm going to move you through the course. And even at that point, you can still be doing that just because it's a safe thing to do when somebody's doing live fire, depending on their skill level. And
using every single one of those opportunities to practice, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's like a mercenary challenge and like, yeah, I went there my first time ever doing a gun competition like that, winning. You know, it's not really what it's about. Even though I beat Mike, you know, it's not a huge deal.
We didn't get
it's
to see
more
the
about
final
the
score.
training that happens.
We got gold and silver. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, no, we
So,
both.
yeah.
We
Let's
both,
put it that way.
Yeah, we
But
both won.
I'm not saying
first
this is
winner,
like
second winner, but again, it's not about the win.
I'm not
Even
saying
though
it's
I
like
won,
Pennsylvania
it's
recount. Like we never saw the actual tallies.
But it's
So-
about training. The point I was just trying to make is it's about training.
It's about training. It doesn't matter
that you got second. Like second's still great. Like,
It's still good for most people,
but
but
it's
you know.
about the training.
Yeah.
That's the point I was trying to
Exactly.
make.
Always a
And-
bridesmaid over a bride.
That's exactly. And I will tell you, the problem when you teach Garrett stuff, he learns so freaking quick that you're like, shit, he's picked that up really quick. I better stop teaching him stuff because he gets really good really quick.
Yeah, Michael's still coming out of nowhere, and just the stuff that we've been on. Even though I've been like every week,
Yeah.
he'll pick up one cold and just and like beat us by like a second. And
And that's where it
good.
gets into the I
God.
taught you everything you know, but not everything I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like when we were rock climbing and we were on that blue one in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And Garrett's like, yeah, no, okay, yeah, see, because he got to the same point. He goes, yeah, where do you go now? And all of a sudden I'm like, he goes, oh shit, I didn't think he was going to do that. And I'm like, next move.
So-
That's why we video so much stuff, so we have it memorialized, like, you know, us conquering, you know, specific problems.
Yeah, I'll have to get some of those videos from you too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
dude.
can-
Come by more often. You know, we'd
Yeah.
love to have you regular. Come do this.
I was
Come
telling
climb
him
more
Mondays will
often.
probably be easier for me.
Dude,
So I'll
sure.
probably trying to come on a few
Let's
Mondays.
do it more often. Again, we can,
Yeah.
we can chop it up. We can get more, you know, conversational stuff. And again, it's great content for us. It's great content for you. It's fun hanging out with you too. You know, we can do them in the night sometimes. Invite some buddies and
And then the next
do this
part,
kind of more regular. It doesn't have to be this huge event. We can just kind of do our mentor meetings where we bring our guys and we invite your guys. And again, with your organization of a bunch of young, hungry dudes, you know, we can start inviting them here consistently. At least once a month, have it out.
have a work, because part of, I've been doing Spartan races this year.
Mhm.
So our goal this year, you know, so every year, Ellie and I, we cast our vision for the year. Like, what do we want to do? We always sit on a beach somewhere and just go through our life.
Terrible place to make your
Exactly.
yearly goal.
Yeah. So, so this last year we went down to Florida, you know, over Christmas. It's pouring down rain. It's freezing. We're like, all right, this is BS. This is not the way we cast our vision. But we drove because we had, you know, the nephews were going to be meeting us down there. And so we're like, all right. So when I drive heavy. I mean, I got rifles, I got guns, passports, drones, because you just never know what's going to happen. So I'm like, all right, this is not our goal. We need to chase sunshine. I said, we were in like a, you know, Sarasota, Siesta Key area. I said, let's look at what the weather is in Miami. It was the same. It was cold and rainy. I'm like, Key West, cold and rainy. And I'm like, Mexico, Dominican, like, we got our passports. Find us someplace. So 2 days later, we were in Mexico somewhere. She found this awesome resort, that we went to over New Year's. We're like, all right, sunshine, beach, let's cast our visions. So we were like, all right, physicality, want to get into better shape. It's everybody's goal every year. But Garrett will push weight. He will go to the gym. He and I have worked out together once. I think that was the only workout we did at the gym. When
I
get that kettlebell.
I tricked him at the climbing gym, and I was like, "Oh, we're gonna warm up in like 30 minutes," and then it was just weights.
Yeah,
and he's just like, "What? No."
And I'm like, "No, this kettlebell.
I climb. I like to have fun. I don't want to actually.
Let's play this swing and kettlebells." And I was like, "Yeah, like I believe in like just. I don't want to throw my back out. I'll be 54 next month. I don't want to throw my back out when I brush my teeth. Like I want to be like functionally strong.
Right.
So our goal was like, let's do adventure races. Let's do Tough Mudders. Let's do Spartan races. So we wanted to do the Spartan trifecta. So it's a 5K, a 10K, and a 21K. And if you do all of them in the 12-month calendar year, then you get a special, trifecta medal.
Nice.
So, but I also want to do our travel and things. So in the 5K in March, we went down over St. Patrick's Day down to Atlanta.
Okay.
Took some friends. 5K, it's fun. There's 25 obstacles, climbing walls, ropes, all these things. Then we went out to Montana in June for a 10K. And it's a good thing that my wife is so smart and she looked at the weather in Montana because it was like, it got 10 inches of snow 2 weeks before we got there. And I'm like, it's June. I thought I'd be running this thing in shorts.
No.
And so you stepped off the starting line and you sunk to your knee in mud.
Oh.
And it was at a ski slope. So you're running up and down a mountain and we're like for 6.5 miles. It was brutal. So the 21K, 13 miles, 32 obstacles is in December. And so we're wrapping up our training for that. But every one of these things, my hands are smoked.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can do the distance, but if you ask me to climb the rope in the beginning, I'm great. By 25 obstacles in it, I can't feel my hands.
Right.
And so Garrett's like, dude, hey, I'm joining this rock climbing gym. And I was like, oh, that would work. I think that would be good.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at these obstacles now. I mean, they're like these huge things that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even grab. Like, oh my, that's
Now
like,
after
you saw those little chips we were grabbing.
After
like,
3 weeks of that, like you blow again. You did great your first time. But it's like, dude, 3 weeks of doing that consistently, you'll be blown away. And again, it's those little things where it's like, oh yeah, I put on all this extra meat so I could deadlift four bells. And now you're like, oh, that doesn't really help if I need to climb.
Yeah.
So
now
like 15 pounds is a huge difference in your ability to move your body. And I know we might not have too much longer. I know you gotta. What I don't want to hold you.
What
too
time
long.
is it?
10.
It's like
Are you already?
10.
Oh, it's 10 already?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Did you see that? When you go down the rabbit hole with Mike.
I know we could keep going for like another hour, but I know you kind of.
Yeah, I'll get out of here shortly.
You got to get back to your kid.
So the funny thing, so back to the trifecta. So we thought this was a great goal to do the trifecta during the year. When we were at our 5K, there's this guy behind us, and we're like, hey, you can go ahead and pass us. And he goes, oh, no. I already did the Spartan Beast this morning, which was the 21K. So he did the 21K in the morning, and then he was just doing the 5K afterwards. We're like, he goes, yeah, I'm doing the whole trifecta this weekend.
Oh, wow.
We're like, you guys do the trifecta over a weekend? I'm taking a whole freaking year to do this.
And warm up with the 5, do the 10 the next day, get a nice little impact, and then take a little break, come in, do the 21K.
And I'm like,
freaking
come on.
Psychotic.
So that was our goal for this year. Garrett and I did a Tough Mudder 10 miler.
Yep.
Ellie was going to do it, but then her hamstring was still pulled.
Yeah.
So Garrett and I did that. So now next year, we've already been casting the vision a little bit early, is the tactical games.
Right. He was mentioning that.
Yeah. So we're like, all right.
I have to drag Adam.
We're like some CrossFit, some adventure race with firearms. And so we've never been to one. I've seen a skirmish that I helped volunteer for a couple of years ago. But I'm reading some of the obstacles, like carry a 15-pound sandbag in one hand while shooting with the other. And you're like, you're like, all right, I haven't done that. And switch. And so, do all this CrossFit stuff so you can't feel your arms and now try to get on target. We're like, all right, let's climb for an hour and a half, torch our hands till you can't feel them, run from the gym over here, and then on the simulator and say, like, okay, how are you doing?
And what's cool is I think they might even actually sponsor the range that TAC Games is doing in Ohio.
Oh,
So
really?
they're part of
At
Buckeye
Gearsville?
Range where they actually did it. It's
So-
very close to Zanesville,
Okay.
We do a lot with Buckeye Range.
Okay.
which is where Tactical Range
Oh.
was recently.
Right. So we do a lot with them. But we also have a few that do tactical games that we already sponsor. So a lady on Instagram, her name's Unicorn Brass, I believe. But we sponsor her, and she's been killing it. So
So what I hear is that we're getting sponsored. I like this.
Oh, I mean, shit, Adam's going to be part of the team. We're going to do team tactical games just like we did Tough Mudder, 10 miler. Like everyone else is trying to help us. We're like, get away.
We are
It's me and Mike. There's a 10-foot mud wall. I'm just flinging him up. He's dragging me over.
And I'm yanking him over.
Just getting cut up. Like, it's a ball, man.
LPMC jerseys with 3.
Yeah, bro. Hey, I'm Garrett, and this is Mike. We're with LPMC, and we just had Adam Parsley at 3i Holsters out.
Appreciate y'all having me this morning, especially the rock climbing. It was a good time.
It's been fun. It's been a great conversation. If you guys want to come get the real thing, come hang out with us November 30th and December 1st.